Okay, so a year or so back, I made a short where I questioned how well the old classics Powerglide still holds up today. And honestly, I do stand by what I said in that short. But I feel like my statement back there could have been interpreted a little negatively. So hey there, stars! Tiv, your local cyberlich here. And today we're going to talk about just how much there is to appreciate about the 2008 Walmart exclusive Universe Ultra Class Powerglide. But before we get into those aesthetics, a brief snippet about my history with the figure. Now, I've always been a little fond of the A-10 Warthog. And that fondness for that aircraft carried me through my childhood and eventually led me to, at one point, owning both the Generation 1 Minibot Powerglide, and eventually, thanks to a clearance aisle sale in 2009 at my local Walmart, this impressive lad right here. Now, unfortunately, Teletrans 6 ended up pulling his wings off, but that's why getting this guy was a top priority of mine once I was in a position to start collecting more vintage figures again, a few years back. It took a bit, though, given how common the other variants of this Powerglide mold are in comparison. Now, let's go ahead and get back into the toy itself. The aesthetics of the robot mode are honestly really solid. Reinterpreting Powerglide from the small, spry Autobot flyer he was in the Generation 1 cartoon to a stockier, if a bit top-heavy, Warbot that debatably fits his alt mode a bit better. And all filtered through the slightly more modern anime-esque look that the Classics toy line was going for with their pseudo G3 evolutions of the character designs. This reflects even in the faceplate details and eyes. The aesthetic of this figure to Classic Powerglide is what the Gundam 00 is to the Classic RX-78. Now, unfortunately, the eyes of the figure can come off as a bit empty and soulless due to being left unpainted, to facilitate the original version of the toy's light-up gimmick. One which I wish they'd done with a clear LED rather than the red, so we'd get a more show-accurate optic color when using the gimmick. Now, speaking of those gimmicks, the aforementioned lights and sounds in robot mode amount to just our intrepid fighter making the sounds of a Gatling gun. A sound effect that, according to TF he shares with the Silverbolt mold. There's also a pair of transforming sounds, pitched slightly differently between robot mode and jet mode. Which you can trigger by either pressing or unlatching a button that serves as a pin in his robot mode torso. Additionally, if you lift up his chest piece, Powerglide has a small heart pattern on the inside, referencing his Spotlight episode from the Generation 1 cartoon. While details like this can be majorly overdone these days, I appreciate it here during a time when the G1 renaissance we've all been trapped in for the past 2 decades had only really started, and little references like that weren't completely saturating the market of toys. Now, his Pacton Blaster is also a missile launcher, but I've stored the missile away because, honestly, the handheld Gatling gun is just, well, as the Bruticus rap would say, and I will regret saying in this video, his Gatling gun is illin'. Unfortunately, articulation on this one is a little more shaky. Both just due to the time and due to just how top-heavy the design and transformation scheme have made him. He's got really solid ratchets giving him a pretty big range of movement with his arms, though you may feel the need to hold the wings in place, honestly. His head has full 360 movement, and thanks to the transformation, he can move back and forth a bit to, sort of gaze up and the like. He's also got a strong ratchet in the waist, allowing a pretty good range of 360 movement there. And the legs have some tight ratchets and some good thigh rotation and knees. His feet can also sort of move. Truth be told, Powerglide is absolutely covered in ratchets, and combined with his top heaviness, that can really make him difficult to pose. but with some effort, you can get some solid poses. Overall, though, how can I be nice about this? Overall, the robot mode it's honestly kind of a huge fucking mess. It overuses ratchet joints and the like to compensate just for how top-heavy the design is. The aesthetic is solid, though, and he has a certain charm and uniqueness that you don't always see in modern Autobot flyers. Like I said back during that short, some bots age well, others not so much. And for Powerglide, he's just kind of aged. Not well, not poorly, but the datedness in the toy design shows. And maybe you can make the argument that the toy needed the top heaviness to incorporate the electronics, but that argument really does fall apart when you look at the Ultra Class Silverbolt. It does allow for a relatively simple and satisfying transformation, though. But before we get into that, here's some quick size comparisons. Now, here's Powerglide with a modern Voyager, a Prime Wars Voyager, the manifestation of his existential dread, Godzilla, and Lord Zed. Now, the resulting jet mode is honestly just a really satisfying interpretation of the A10 in red. It's not a perfect one-to-one, but it's got some nice detail, along with having an Easter egg of his catchphrase written in Elite speak on the tail fins. He also has a few more sounds in this form, which is adding in a takeoff sound along with the dramatic in-flight whoosh to the existing machine gun sound effect. It's also this mode, and just how solid and chunky it feels in general, that honestly saves this toy from its robot mode faults for me. The resultant jet mode also, to me, feels a bit cleaner in terms of undercarriage kibble than a lot of more modern aircraft Transformers. I just really love the jet mode. Even if it's not a perfect replica of the A10, it's a satisfying chunk of a jet. And I plan on having him hang up in my living room with some fishing line. Before we get into the final conclusion, though, here's some quick size comparisons. Here is Powerglide's jet mode with a modern-ish leader, a modern Voyager, a thrilling 30-era Voyager, my sleeping schedule, a LEGO Star Wars Microfighter, Godzilla, and Lord Zed. Alright, so at the end of the day, Brilliant 30 Powerglide's robot mode is honestly, it's a pain in the ass to pose. And even more so to keep standing straight some of the time. But the charm of the aesthetics, along with the stellar playing mode, honestly make up for it to me. But judging him objectively and without those rose-tinted goggles, he's a 3 out of 5 stars at best to me. I would really only recommend tracking him down if you either have a nostalgia for him like I do, Or you're an aircraft collector primarily and just want a fun robotic take on the A-10. Given Powerglide's size factor with this mold, I'd say this might be a more enjoyable option than one of the smaller takes on the character. But you know, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching, stars, and I'll see you all next time on the other side. Oh, a year or... So, a year or so... Now the jet mode you get from transforming... As the Bruticus rap would say, and I will regret saying in this video, his Gatling gun is illin'. God, why did I say that?